Welcome to Curator at the Museum. On display on our shelves, we don't have paintings, sculptures, or even ancient artifacts. Our exhibit pieces are Lego sets. Now, as an adult collector, my point of view on Lego is that they're as much of a work of art as a playable toy. Something that can be displayed, shared, and admired. The adult line of LEGO sets have had such a meteoric rise in the last several years, which brings us to what we do on this channel. Our museum display pieces deserves effort, care, and attention to keep them looking as pristine as possible. Our films will take you through the work we do at this museum in service of that very goal. Hope you enjoy, and thank you for watching. Every LEGO set is either inspired by or based off a real setting, vehicle, ship, or anything you can imagine. Stories is a chapter where we take you through their history. In the future, this chapter includes the actual building of said LEGO sets, but for now, we will take you through the LEGO set pieces in our museum that are already built, and there are quite a few to go through. So there's no time to waste, let's introduce you to the set we'll be focusing on. I bet if you asked any Harry Potter fan what the most iconic set or location is, vast majority of them would either say the Hogwarts Castle, Diagon Alley, Hogsmeade Village, Ministry of Magic, but one of the most important and consistent locations in all 7 books is not even a location at all. Well, kind of a location, a moving location. And it's none other than the Hogwarts Express. It quite literally transports our characters out of the Muggle world and into the magic of Hogwarts. It's the very definition of a multifaceted plot device. Now, according to Hogwarts lore, most likely written in Hogwarts A History, students used to arrive to Hogwarts via brooms, enchanted carts, or magical creatures. Now, I imagine that would be quite a logistical problem for faculty, students, parents, what have you. No doubt also causing some issues with detection from muggles. A trial of portkeys was also tried, but as you can imagine, wasn't exactly successful. A lot of people throwing up, not the prettiest sight. Now in the 1820s, then Minister of Magic came up with the idea for an enchanted train. So subsequently, the Hogwarts Express and hidden platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross Station was created. When it comes to LEGO Harry Potter sets, there have been some pretty legendary new additions for the Collector's Edition line, starting with Hogwarts Castle to Diagon Alley to the Hogwarts Icon sets, and now Hogwarts Express. It's true that many of the kids who grew up with the Harry Potter books, or grew up reading the Harry Potter books, present company included, are now kind of well into their adulthoods. So, matter of factly, these sets are for them. Well, for us, I suppose. Measuring over 10.5 inches high, 46.5 inches long, and 8 inches wide, this Hogwarts Express is a massive set. It's a 1/32nd scale replica of the Hogwarts Express from the films, featuring the locomotive, tender car, passenger car, and platform 9 3/4. Our first introduction to the Hogwarts Express was, of course, seeing the 4-6-0 locomotive for the first time, as Harry runs through the hidden entrance to platform 9 3/4. In the film, it was striking in its livery, with Hogwarts Express signage, as well as the magical occupants on board. But this iconic locomotive we see in the film, without a doubt, has one of the most interesting stories to tell. Long ago, relegated to a scrapyard and in line for dismantling, it was far from the Hogwarts Express that we see in the film. Built in April 1937 by G.W.R. Swindon Works, a British railway company that operated from 1833 to 1947, linking large swaths of the UK via rail. Our locomotive began its life with the number 5972 and named the Alton Hall. It operated in the 1940s and 50s towards the tail end of the era of the steam engine locomotive train travel on one of the GWR's routes. Unfortunately for the Alton Hall, the electric diesel reign was about to begin. Our locomotive was bought by the scrapyard in Barry Docks, also known as the locomotive's graveyard. However, here is where things started to turn around. Introducing West Coast Railways, a heritage railway operator which purchased the Alton Hall in 1981. Over the next 16 years, the restoration effort was conducted, culminating in a call from Warner Brothers during pre-production on the first Harry Potter film. The Alton Hall was to undergo another transformation into the Hogwarts Express, insignias, Hogwarts crests, and paint being modified in pre-production. Surprisingly enough, the more controversial modification done by the film was actually the paint. It was a widely known standard that all GWR locomotives were painted green. Now, I can understand, given the amount of time and labor that it took to restore the Alton Hall in the first place, the modification for the film to paint the Alton Hall red wouldn't have been seen as kindly by lovers of old locomotives and the restorers of these locomotives. However, we can also be grateful to the filmmakers for staying true to the source material and recreating the iconic Hogwarts Express color. Today, the Alton Hall's temporary home is in the Warner Brothers studio tour in London and will remain there until the Warner Brothers lease on the locomotive expires. So taking a look at the Lego Hogwarts Express locomotive and tender car. Actually, we didn't really talk about the tender car earlier, but there's not much of a history behind that. It's mainly the locomotive here. So there's so many details that it's almost hard to even catch all of them. So there's going to be a ladder on both the tender car and the locomotive, 3 wheels on the tender car, and nice yellow molding on the very side of the tender car here. The Hogwarts Express logo is actually not the logo, but more the signage, and then the Hogwarts crest is going to be in the middle. This, like we said earlier, there are dual ladders on both the tender car and the locomotive for ease of access for the minifigures. There's a cabin railing and tender car railing with a window for the cabin actually, and then the 5972 number. So we can see the boiler, regulator, and piping along the very front of the locomotive. The boiler runs the entire length of the locomotive for the most part. Hogwarts Castle signage on the right hand side in black. It's a nice contrast to the red. We see the smokestack on the very top with that nice gold detailing on the top. The driving wheels are going to be at the bottom, 6 large wheels actually, and you see the linkage pistons along the wheels too. Have a boiler exhaust, the cylinder for the pistons, and the pilot truck wheels in the very front that keep the locomotive on the track. There's a cowcatcher in the front. It doesn't have like a full cowcatcher, but it's just like the bumper-ish. There's couplers on the very front too, and we have the smoke box door on the very front of the locomotive. There's a headlamp, Hogwarts Express signage, and we also have the 5972 number again. There's 3 smaller front lamps on the bottom near the cowcatcher. And then we'll take a look at the rear of the tender car here. You see couplers, the connector to the passenger car, and the rear of the tender. Not too much detailing here, but it looks pretty good nonetheless. And then we have a nice view of that coal pile where the engineers are loading the locomotive full of coal to burn. And there's a water hatch at the rear as well. The Hogwarts Express pulls out of King's Cross Station on its yearly voyage to Hogwarts. In the film, we're primarily greeted with interior shots of the characters interacting, seeing each other again after the long summer. But we also have interspersed a couple of great exterior shots of the Hogwarts Express chugging through the UK countryside. One of the quintessential filming locations for the Hogwarts Express was where it chugged along a large viaduct bridge, with rolling hills in the background. This location is actually the Glenfinnan Viaduct in northwestern Scotland, built in 1901. Since the films, this bridge has actually been dubbed the Harry Potter Bridge. Although with notoriety comes the influx of tourists, leading to the British Transport Police even warning fans to refrain from walking on the viaduct in lieu of several near misses. There is an active train line which travels over the bridge, the Jacobite steam train, but tickets for the train are pretty hard to come by. With this Lego set, we don't have a beautiful backdrop of the viaducts in Scotland, but we do feature a long and detailed length of train track for the Hogwarts Express to be displayed, leaving room for the imagination to place the tracks in every location from the films, whether it be Hogsmeade Station, along the lake where the Dementors board the train, or entering back into King's Cross. Now, we'd be pretty remiss to talk about the Hogwarts Express and not take us through the actual carriages themselves. We see the characters grow up in these carriage compartments, from first meetings to frightening experiences to joyful reunions. The sheer number of memories within the corridors of this train, it's a lot of them. The carriage cars used in the Hogwarts Express were the British Rail Mark I carriages. This carriage was intended to standardize the carriage design across all of the rail lines in the United Kingdom. In contrast to the standard green color of the GWR locomotives, the Mark I carriages came in all sorts of liveries, which is where Hogwarts Express comes into play. Though there is not as much of a dramatic story with the Mark I, the scenes within the Hogwarts Express more than make up for it. So the Lego Hogwarts Express passenger car, carriage car, can't really seem to decide which one I like the best here. But this is going to have the most amount of interior detailing, especially for minifigure placement. So let's go ahead and take off the compartment openings. There's 3 of them on this side of the carriage, as well as 2 carriage doors adorning it. And you see 3 large windows in the middle, which provide you a pretty good viewing point inside the actual cabin itself. We see a scene from the Sorcerer's Stone with Hermione, Ron, and Harry. We have tiny little quotes on the very middle in stickered pieces. This is from The Prisoner of Azkaban with Hermione, Harry, Lupin, and Ron. And lastly is the Half-Blood Prince compartment where Harry and Luna are interacting. And Malfoy is missing from this. Turning it around to the other side where we have a complete different compartment / passageway area. We have 3 windows here too. And you can see there's a compartment door right in front where Hermione is standing. There's a Dementor which always falls off, and there is a lamp. There's tiny little lamps along a lot of the interior sections of this actual entire set. So you see a little bit of a view of the trolley cart and the carriage door, which opens like so. We'll take a closer look at all the moving mechanisms a little bit more in depth and going over them in the maintenance chapter. And we'll take a look at the bottom of the carriage. There's some very nice detailing in terms of the trucks of the actual carriage, which incorporate 4 different wheels. And you see 2 couplers on the very end as well. We're going to go ahead and start putting the carriage compartment covers back on. I also like that they have the truck suspension. It's very, very detailed. I think out of all the train sets I've seen, this is probably the most detailed. And we have the carriage wheels like we showed you below the trucks that spin freely too. Our final aspect of the Hogwarts Express set is of course platform 9 3/4. Depicted in the books and films as a hidden platform in King's Cross Station, this is the very start of the young wizards and witches' journey to Hogwarts. A fun aside to note is that J.K. Rowling later recounted she confused the layout of the actual King's Cross Station with that of Euston Station. But no matter, the filming location was at St. Pancras Station anyways. There's a small plaque in the real King's Cross Station with a trolley sunken into the wall, paying an homage to the books. Without a doubt, This is definitely going to be the most detailed Lego platform 9 3/4. It's a little bit of a cross section of it. It's not the full platform 9 3/4, but you see enough of the details here. With the archways and the columns, we see an example of luggage trolley and a decorative arch on the very top too, which is very beautifully done. And you see a lot of the platform 9 3/4 signage on both sides of the actual platform itself. There's globe lamps adorning the archways too. And we have a Lego plaque, which has kind of, the little bits and bobs of descriptions of the actual set itself. We have not a real scene, but we have the Harry Potter family from the end of the 7th movie. And we have a Deathly Hallows quote on the very top too. You see there's a lot of brick wall detailing on this 9 3/4 platform, and columns as well. Vehicles have always played such a huge role in films, books, and stories. I dare say even to classify them as a character themselves. And the Hogwarts Express, it's no exception. It's an icon that lives on through the screen, through pages, through the Harry Potter Museum, theme park attractions, and now through the Lego Harry Potter Collectors series in brick form. Here at the museum, we really like to think of the Lego set pieces that we have as unique pieces that you can display in unique ways. This chapter is called Exhibits. Here, we're going to be showing you the different angles that can really accentuate and showcase the different details that we see in all of the different Lego sets that we have. Either small or large pieces. Each one has a lot of hidden artifacts and just unique details that are fun to look at. Anyone who owns a Lego set knows that there are two certainties with owning a Lego set. First is that things are eventually going to fall apart and break apart. When you bump into it, you drop it, you move it, what happens? The second is you are going to accumulate dust on that Lego set. This chapter is called Maintenance. Here we're going to be showing you how we do the maintenance tasks at our museum for the Lego set pieces here, which consists of dusting using a Dyson soft brush head and an electric duster, as well as checking all of the moving functions and making sure everything works and no pieces have fallen off. We'll remove the different train cars and then remove the actual train tracks itself because it's a little bit large and doesn't fit in frame, so we'll do things one at a time. It's not exactly called a UCS set, but it pretty much is when it comes to Hogwarts sets, and this is definitely one of the most exciting and most, I have to say, grandest train set that LEGO has ever created and released. It's definitely larger in scale than most of the other LEGO train sets, so it doesn't fit on most of the tracks, but it is a very nice display piece, and I'm really glad that they went to try to make it as close to as minifigure scale as possible. First thing we'll look at is the locomotive. Locomotive is definitely this cornerstone of this particular set. It looks beautiful with so many detailing, and the wheels, I'm just kind of a sucker for train sets. I'm not one of those LEGO train people specifically, but I am one of those LEGO train people. But I don't have that strong of opinions on the kind of builds and so on and so forth. So we take care of each individual side and the top. There are a lot of delicate parts here, so the duster is very helpful with not knocking any parts of those away. So this is one of the first sets that we're going to be looking at that actually has small minifigures, and which means things are going to be a little bit more difficult to dust. Now that we got most of the exterior parts, we'll have to really focus more on the Q-tip cleaning later, and then now the electric duster. With the amount of details that are in LEGO sets, that means the more dust that can kind of linger, especially with a set like this, which is colored both red and black. They tend to show dust very, very easily. So let's move on to the locomotive tender car, or the coal car. This is pretty easy to dust if I'm going to be completely honest. There's not many opening details here, just the great details of the coal mount on the top, which you can easily take care of with the Dyson brush. I'm not trying to say that is not detailed, but it doesn't have too many details where it makes it difficult to dust. In fact, most of the dust can be taken off with our Dyson soft brush. So we'll be able to quickly do that on each individual side. Again, I apologize because the train is moving all over the place, but it's on wheels. So what have you, it's going to happen. With a quick once-over of the electric duster, we can move on to the next cornerstone of this set, which is the passenger car, which has all the little different dioramas inside there, 3 to be exact, from 3 different movies. But the exterior itself is quite easy to handle because it's just pretty flat. There's 4 doors here, and they all do open, so we'll be able to check those to make sure that there's nothing blocking them and no pieces are missing. The exteriors are very easy for us because all we have to really do is use a brush everywhere, gets most of the dust off. You can see here, there's little buttons on the very top of this passenger car that controls the little lights that are inside the dioramas, which are a little bit harder to see because we're in such a wide angle lens, but we'll go inside the dioramas soon enough. So it's a little bit hard for me to remember which side pops out. Oh, there we go. So I'm popping out the individual compartment doors, the sides of the train, and you can see the individual dioramas that are in here. I'll try to turn on all the lights. They work. Awesome. With minifigures, makes it especially harder to dust within the actual set itself, so we'll do just a cursory look here. I'm holding the electric duster really far above the set so it doesn't blow off any of the minifigures and any props that are inside there. So let's get the sides of the doors back on. It's a great display piece, especially because of the removability of these particular parts of the train. And we open the doors work perfectly. The roofs at the tail end of the set actually pops up, so you can see the minifigures that you can place inside the actual corridors of the passenger car. Get the electric duster in there, just getting the dust out and following up with the Dyson, because that's how we get the dust to not fall back into the place that we just dusted them out of, or we blew them out of. We'll go over to the other side of the set as well, which will show you the actual corridor in the hallway, which is a great touch to have because a lot of things do happen in the hallway, especially in the Harry Potter series, movie series, and book series. The Dementor here tends to fall very easily. It's not very easy. Let's just say that the Dementor doesn't really fit well into that hallway, but it's part of the diorama, so we got to keep it there. But it keeps falling out every time we clean it, so I just take it out of the actual train itself and put it back in. And now we can pop that off, and then now we're good to go. So let's move on to the next section of the train, which is going to be the track itself, which, let me tell you, if you don't really focus on the track, this is a huge dust magnet. I think for like most Lego train sets and tracks and whatnot, this is very underlooked in terms of this can look really dusty. So we'll take a good pass at going through each of the individual horizontal pieces that hold up the track itself and the rails. Underneath here can also get a lot of dust, so we'll do a little bit more careful job with using the Dyson soft brush head. The actual platform itself is much easier because it's very flat, but we have a lot of minifigures on them, so have to be a little bit more careful to not knock any of them off. We'll do a more thorough job in the actual conservation room, which is where we get to more of the finer details. But for now, that good first pass, it's all we need. And then with the electric duster following up to try to get any of this dust that might be stuck in those smaller crevices and areas underneath the tracks. So we'll keep dusting for a little bit longer and then move on to the second part of our maintenance journey. Let's turn off the duster here. It's actually a really, really powerful duster. It blows everything off very well. But yeah, I mean, we can take a closer look at all the individual components to make sure that everything is firmly in place with this set. So starting off with the locomotive, on the left side, I'll press down on the upper boiler fuselage area, making sure that everything feels very snug. Now, Lego sets can become a little bit loose. Well, actually, they don't really become loose. They just sometimes are loose after you build, since you're usually very eager to move quickly through the instructions, and I'm guilty of this a lot. Now, at the front of the locomotive, there's plenty of great detail here. I'll give that top section a little bit of a press too, just to make sure that it's on very tight. This entire front area is or that's actually the top of the locomotive. I can't remember exactly how it's built onto the thing. I'm sure it's Technic frames. And since I've moved this set several times, it's good to do these kind of maintenance checks every now and then. Some models hold up better than others, and 18 plus models, let's say they're a little bit more delicate, so it's not the worst idea to double check them. Now down near the wheel wells, we have some more delicate areas too. On the platform above the wheels, I don't really think it's for minifigures, but adds a nice bit of design. So taking a look at the cabin now, the roof isn't designed to be removed at all, so it feels pretty solid. Engineer is still in place too, and the interior details don't really, they're pretty tight on. I don't think there's anything very loose there. So finally, let's turn back to the very front. Here we have the more delicate details. The front couplings, the Hogwarts Express nameplate, which we'll see a little bit closer in a bit. There we go. And the train's number plate, which is right underneath it. Everything feels pretty secure, so just a little slight press to keep them pretty snug. So turning the model around here, we can take a look at the moving parts on the front of the engine. This locomotive follows a 460 structure, so 4 small wheels at the front and 6 main driving wheels in the middle. So the wheel control sits at the very top. Turning it moves the wheels super smoothly. It's genuinely an awesome feature. You also see how the moving pistons along the bottom, including that front piston assembly, all work. So we can go ahead and turn it once more so you can see all of those moving parts. You know, I might not know all the technical terms, but as a train fan, I just think this just looks really cool. So next, let's switch over to the coal tender car. Now, compared to the engine, it's simpler, far fewer play features, but the detailing is nice and it's a good way to connect the engine to the actual passenger car. On the left side here, we can see the wheel wells as well. There's going to be 6 wheels in total. And as we turn around this coal tender around the back, there's going to be some coupling details. And these are the coupling details that will connect it to the locomotive. And we saw the coupling details on the locomotive as well. As we turn it around, we're going to be seeing a small ladder for minifigures to be able to climb up onto the tender. And we'll press along the top and the bottom of pretty much all sides of this coal tender just to make sure everything feels very secure. And some smaller touches here, like the tools they use to scoop coal into the boiler. Now, these pieces are going to be tiny, so making sure that they're snug is important. With larger sets, most details are quite small, and they can be fragile at certain points. Now, up top, the coal mound is built from a lot of 2x2 circular pieces. They stay on quite well, though dusting them, it's always a little bit tricky, as you'll see more of that in the conservation series, because it's very, very detailed, which means it's really hard to get your brush in there and to brush all the dust off. All right, so as we put the passenger car into frame here, this is easily the lengthiest piece of car in this actual set, like the lengthiest car in the set. So this will definitely take a little bit longer. Starting off with the right side of the passenger car, we'll go through our usual process of squeezing together all the rooftop pieces, making sure that they all fit properly. Doorways here typically have, well, actually not typically, they just seem to have the most amount of detail. So we're going to press through the coupling, the door details, and the side piping as well. The passenger car roof doesn't have the most amount of details, but it does have a good number of pieces in its build. And overall, it looks nice, but we just need to make sure that everything is tight on there. Now we'll start looking at the movable functions. Both doors open, 1 and 2 here, and they close very well without much resistance, which is excellent. The ends of the carriage also have doors. So we'll go ahead and open this one and take a little peek into the interior, but we're going to show the interior a little bit later, and then we'll close it back up. Turning it around, we'll check the other side, which is pretty much exactly the same when it comes to how the doors open. Just the front and the rear one. Perfect. We'll close them too, and then make sure the wheels spin as well. They definitely do, and they're not too tight either. The other side of the carriage also have the same opening doors on the ends, which we'll look at more. We can check the interior a little bit later. It can be a little bit tricky to get your fingernail in the grooves that open the doors, but that's just how it is. Well, let's take a look at the cabin compartments here. So there are 3 compartments on this side and 1 more on the other. These are set up to show the 3 individual compartments for each of the different scenes that we are seeing. You can see the light up brick shining through a little bit here, which kind of helps you take a peek inside. The light is super strong, so you kind of have to use your imagination a little, but hopefully with our actual lighting setup, you can see it a little bit more clearly. Spinning it around, actually, no, before let's take a look at the ends of the carriage first. On the side, you see one of the interior sections. Now, there isn't much going on here. It's pretty much just an entrance doorway, like where the students would be boarding from platform 9 3/4. Now, if we shift over to the other side, there's going to be a little bit more going on. There's a little extra space here, kind of like luggage racks along the top, and there's also a little stickering detail inside. At the far end, we'll even see the trolley lady on display with her cart, which is a nice little addition. All of these sections are designed with studs placed very carefully, so you can position minifigures pretty much anywhere you like. And the roof pops off and pops back on pretty easily too, making access very simple. Moving on to the carriage passageway now. This is where one of the bigger scenes is set up. This is the area in which Hermione and the Dementor figure are staged. The Dementor is a bit tricky to keep standing inside of here. It doesn't seem attached very securely, and I think it's just that the bottom of the Dementor piece just doesn't really latch on to studs very well. Makes it a little bit annoying, but we just keep trying to put it on there. The big issue is once you start placing the cover back on, then it knocks the Dementor off of its perch, but yeah, I think we can manage this one. So turning it around now, we'll go and put the covers back onto the 3 cabin compartments too. They all fit pretty snug, which is good. The last one is always going to be a little bit more difficult because it's just really tight fit, but I very much appreciate tight fits when it comes to Lego sets, so things don't really fall apart. Now let's go back to our final dusting. So let's grab the cars and put them back on. First with the locomotive, making sure that it goes on the exact studs it needs to so that the actual mechanics work. Pushing that down and moving on to the coal car. These cars are surprisingly actually connected together. Just a very simple Lego collection. Some of the Lego trains have those magnetic connectors, but this one, this is a vertical Technic piece with the 2x2 piece that slides right over it. Very simple. As we always wrap up our conservation sessions here with the makeup brush, doing a quick swift pass over each individual side of the Hogwarts Express. Starting with the locomotive, moving on to the coal cars, and then finishing with the passenger train. We're also going to be doing a little bit of the platform itself. It's a little bit harder to see from this angle, but I promise we're taking a quick pass. Again, this is just to get any of the last minute dust off that might have been stuck here while we brought everything back from the conservation room. Actually, we're going to wrap up with doing the tracks as well. As we established, that's the main dust magnet. When you've had a Lego collection for a while, or even if you have just one set, occasionally you can't make the proper maintenance tasks. So a couple weeks will go by, a couple months will go by, and eventually you will have a Lego set that has so much darn dust on it. This chapter is called Conservation at the Museum. Here, we go through the deep cleaning tasks that are necessary for any kind of Lego sets that have been on display for a while and have a lot more dust on them that requires a little bit more attention. Meaning we're not using makeup brushes or dusters, we're using water, small brushes, Q-tips, and microfiber cloths to go through every little detail of the Lego set pieces that we have. It's a longer process, but it's worth it, especially if you have a collection that you want to keep looking as pristine as possible. I love being able to place the locomotive, the tender car, and then the passenger car back onto the tracks. The locomotive car is actually a little bit more difficult to put on the tracks because there is a studded portion that you stick it onto, and that's because there's a mechanical portion for this set, which allows you to turn the wheels of the locomotive, which is pretty cool. I should create a new series on this channel, Curator at the Museum, just to showcase the moving parts of each of these Lego sets in our museum. So I'll have to do that. Let's start off with the front of the locomotive. Lovely black section, which gets a lot of dust, but we'll use our Q-tip to make sure we clean every part of it that we can. With the Hogwarts Express logo on the very front of the locomotive, as well as the smokestack, which is a beautiful gold color, great accent to this set. Transitioning downwards to the actual front cowcatcher, which is actually called a cowcatcher. I actually do know this about trains. And with the 3 little lights as well. So a little bit more of a careful detailing here that we have to clean, but not really that much of a problem at all. I really enjoy just admiring the front of the Hogwarts Express because it's such a beautiful build. As we continue onwards to the actual sides of the locomotive, we'll start on the left side first, of course. And there are a lot of moving details here, especially because you can see the moving wheels and the actual pistons that move the wheels. That part of the train I actually don't really know what it's called, so if anyone could please help me learn, that would be fantastic. And we'll be sure to go through each of the individual details on the side of this locomotive, from right underneath the actual boilers, which I believe that's the large middle part, and then the wheel wells as well. Moving towards the rear, we can focus on closer to the cabin of the locomotive. Cabin of the locomotive is actually very detailed as well for a set that's minifigure size, pretty awesome. We can do a little bit of work on the wheels, but it's right underneath the entire locomotive itself, so the amount of dust that it gets is not that substantial, not as much as the top of the set. Moving on to the top of the locomotive, you can see a lot of the detail here. You see that little black lever in the right middle of the frame. If you turn that, the wheels turn as long as you have the locomotive mounted correctly onto the studs. Just really fascinating and awesome detail that they didn't include. And we can spend a lot of time up here on the top of the locomotive, which is where most of the dust buildup is anyway. And that black piece, or the black pieces right where the cabin is, that tends to be the most dust retentive part of this set, especially when you're looking at it, at least just from the locomotive part. The passenger side is definitely worse. And we'll show you that we do dry off the water after we clean with a Q-tip, because of course if the water's just there, it's just going to create water stains, and that's not great either. As we'll move one car down to the actual tender car, it's hard to see a lot of the details here because it's just black, but it's the coal portions are just 2x2 rounded studded pieces. So we'll just go around the smooth pieces as well, which is around the coal car. The detail is simple, but is very effective in showing that it's mounds of coal. So with studded pieces, there's a lot more effort that needs to go into cleaning. So with the Q-tip, we're going to go over each of the actual individual studs as well as the spaces between them, which is where you can find most of the dust buildup. But since these are black pieces, you can see them a lot more, which is why we spend that amount of time to actually clean those pieces like this. Luckily, the surrounding red edges of the coal car, very easy to clean, doesn't need that much attention. As we move on to the passenger car, this is the crown jewel of all dust retention and where you can see a lot of dust on. So we'll take a good long pass with our Q-tip to clean every inch of all of the smooth pieces as well as some of the studded pieces. Now, I've always been worried about sets like this where a lot of dust can get into the small moving parts, namely the gray dots, which are what control the actual lights. I've always worried that it might break those electric pieces, but I might be overthinking it too much. But we'll get that microfiber cloth in here and just wipe off any of the water and any of the kind of dust spots that we see. You see here, there's a little nick, so I'm going to try to just scrape that off with my finger. We need to actually do the cabin of the locomotive as well. Top of the sign gets a little bit of dust, so we'll spend a little bit of time there. And the very edge of the windows also. And right next to the actual cabin, there's two poles that can also get dusty as well. And then the windows, we love cleaning windows at this channel if you haven't heard. Inside the cabin, there's a minifigure here, so it's a little bit more difficult to get to all the little nooks and crannies where the dust can get, but we did blow out most of it and it is covered, so I'm not too worried about too much dust being in there. But I do like the conductor and always want to clean off his little cap as well. So we'll spend a little bit of time down here underneath the coal car, just to do another pass at the wheels and the side panels that hold up the wheels as well. Not as much that they get much dust, but I don't recall me cleaning this the last time this set went into conservation, so I think it's worth it to actually do a quick pass right now. The interesting thing about this train set is it still uses the same wheel pieces that go with most of the other train sets that actually fit on the Lego gauge train tracks. This is 8 studs wide, while the standard Lego train tracks is about 6 studs wide. So it doesn't fit and it can't be motorized. I know some people really enjoy having motorized Lego trains, but that's not the purpose of this set. The passenger car is the exact same thing, just the sides need a little bit of attention when it comes to just the amount of dust that it can get. The bottom half, not too much, but we'll take a little pass here. I think I always forget to do the coal car and the passenger car undercarriage where the wheels are, so that's why I'm doing it right now. And as we move on to the next section of I changed my mind. I want to do the locomotive wheels as well. Let's just say I forget to do this some of the time. So that's just me making up for the fact that I forgot to do it. And also the train track. So the little slanted pieces on the sides of the track also need some attention when it comes to dust. So we try to take those off. Luckily, we don't go that crazy with trying to Q-tip clean each of the studs on the track because we lose our minds. But it might be necessary maybe like every other year or so if it gets that much dust retention, but we haven't seen it much because the Dyson brush does a really good job. Finally, we can move on to the actual passenger car where all the more fun details are with the dioramas and the characters and the details. So we'll start off with just the front door and just the exteriors. The little windows here need some attention always. You see inside here, you see the trolley cart feet. God, I really don't know Harry Potter. The lady who had the trolley. I wish I knew her name. My apologies, Harry Potter fans. but we'll do a careful job with cleaning around her because the smooth pieces down there just can get some dust, but because we do display this set actually with all the compartments open so you can see the dioramas. So let's move on to the first diorama, which is from the first book and the first movie, which is where Harry, Ron, and Hermione meet for the first time. So you can see there's a lot of interesting detail here with the box of candies, Ron's rat, and the actual minifigures fit here very well because the seats are minifigure scale, which is really awesome. There's a little quote from the actual movie on the top there. And all these details get a lot of dust because we leave the compartments open, so it's helpful to do a kind of pass like this. Moving on to the second diorama, which is actually from the third movie, where the three main characters meet Professor Lupin and a Dementor, which is very terrifying in the movies when I watched it as a kid, and I was very scared of it. But now as I look at it, it's awesome. It's great detailing in here as well. And it's got the same quote from that movie, which I think is a very nice touch. It's just a nice kind of gentle reminder to what inspired a set like this in the first place. From this angle, you can see a little bit of the Dementor in the very background. Doesn't look as scary right now because I lit everything very warmly because it's Harry Potter. It's a warm, friendly, fun kind of set, and the set is red, so it's better to light things warmly anyway. So this one looks good, so we can move onwards to the last diorama, which is from episode 6, I believe, which is where we meet Luna Lovegood for the very first time. Technically, this diorama could also include Mr. Draco Malfoy too, but I believe we put him in the corridor, and so we want to just focus on Luna Lovegood and Harry Potter in this one. Similar to the other dioramas, you also see the quote. There's not too much detail here. It's not really a compartment like the other two dioramas. It's more of a standard train corridor with seats adorning it. Because we got to see that in the 6th movie, seeing a little bit of a different part of the train. And it looks more like a standard commuter train that you'd see. But I do prefer the compartments, I have to say. There's more fun, more detailed. We got Mr. Malfoy in the corridor, looking very suspiciously like he's up to no good. We'll get the details on the outside. Just wipe off the windows, because I don't believe that we did this one yet. So take a little pass around Mr. Malfoy as well. Luckily the studs in there don't get that much dust in them, so we don't have to go too crazy with it. And take a secondary pass at the window because we love cleaning windows here. We'll take another look at the actual exterior of the Hogwarts Express. We didn't take that much of a closer pass here earlier, so we'll just get the 2 windows in the back. The train windows actually have a very nice touch of not being just completely clear. There's a little bit of a windowsill as well, which is a great touch. There's a little window sill piece that goes inside the door, which is a unique touch, and I very much enjoy it. Even on the ends of the train, there's quite a lot of detail, which makes this a very just fun and detailed Lego train set, even though it's a little bit too big for the standard train tracks. So now we're going to have to take each of the cars of the train out and then flip them over so that we can take care of the other sides, which we haven't done just yet. So we'll start off with the passenger car. The minifigures on the platform also look like they need to be cleaned, but we'll start off with this side first. And as we showed you earlier back at the museum, the actual panel pops off. So we'll take a pass of cleaning inside this portion as well. This is just a corridor outside of the actual compartments inside the train. We see Hermione inside the corridor as well as the Dementor. It's interesting that the dioramas are all connected by this corridor, as the different movies, but it's a nice touch and I think it flows very well. And this corridor portion of the set, not really that highlighted. And they still did an excellent job with all the detailing and actual space, because there's rooms to stage minifigures like we're doing right here. And since this portion actually doesn't get removed, the cover, when we're displaying it, so it doesn't get that much dust. But, dust has a funny thing of actually going through doors, so it does sometimes get a little bit of dusty. So we'll take a pass here, especially with the Dementor. And Sky, since he's all black, definitely sees the most amount of dust, so we'll always do a pass here. We'll get the side panel covering the corridor, hopped back on, and then take off the passenger train and move on the coal car. Similar to the amount of time that we spent on the other coal car, this one shouldn't take too long. There's a little side paneling detail here that definitely gets dust and a little bit on the top too, so we'll take a quick pass at that. Again, since we don't put these sets into conservation more than once or twice a year, they still do get some form of dust everywhere, so we'll just do our due diligence and clean everywhere. As a side note, I don't know if a video like this exists already, but I think something interesting would be to try to combine two of these sets together and make a massive Hogwarts train. I don't builder much more skilled than I would have to do something like that, but just thinking about that as we're cleaning the undercarriage underneath the coal car as well as the wheel area. Then we can move on and go to our final piece, which is the locomotive. Starting off with the top of the cabin, which gets the most dust, as we've said before. The little sides and the little step ladder at the bottom, and then the side signage, and then the side signage of the actual track, the train number. I see the Hogwarts Express is a little bit off kilter. I think we've fixed it afterwards. I'm not 100% sure, but I might have to go check that. Swooping over to the actual front of the locomotive, which more black pieces, so you can get a little bit more of a sense of how the actual front of this engine looks, and in comparison to the other Hogwarts Express trains that have come out, this definitely has the most detail. I love the size of it, the scale of it. It just makes everything so much more fun, Hogwartsy, and all that. So we can move onwards to the actual platform, which is much due for a cleaning pass from us. Starting off at the front of the platform, just do another quick pass here with a Q-tip just to make sure all the flat areas, I mean, there's not many studs here. The only studs here to actually stick the minifigures on. Like now we're sticking on one of the characters. I actually don't know who this character is. Maybe it's Dean Thomas. Not 100% sure. And I like the detail of the owls as well as the trunks. These trunk pieces are definitely new. I don't remember having seen these before, but I don't own too many Harry Potter sets, so that might be why. Oh, we popped open a little bit of the trunk there, so we'll close it. Now we see the actual main characters in the 7th movie as they brought their children to platform 9 3/4 for their first time going to Hogwarts. And we'll clean around the characters as well as a little bit on the characters because they get a little bit of dust too, and then sticking them back onto the studs if I knock them a little bit loose. All these smooth pieces definitely showed a lot of dust, so we'll definitely do a quick pass here because we couldn't do it with the duster, otherwise everything would have been knocked off. So the Q-tip is quite perfect for this situation. Moving more towards the rear side, we don't have any minifigures here, so it's a really quick swoop of our Q-tip. We can start to focus more on the actual columns and the sides and the brick walls. I like the brick walls, these kind of pieces. I know they're very common, but still think they're awesome in terms of the amount of detail they provide, as well as the overhangs that are set with these pieces. I believe they're more like Technic, Bionicle kind of bendy pieces, and I really love the detail it makes in actually providing the overhangs for this set. We'll do our best to make sure all of the columns, even the ones on the front, are wiped down with our Q-tip. Strangely enough, these walls and everything seem to get a lot more dust than any of the other parts of this set, including the train, so it's good to do a pass. We'll pop on the passenger train and then move on to the other side of the platform, which we need to take a full thorough pass on getting all the sides, the columns, and then the empty portions of the floor. We can see a little bit more closely to the individual minifigure characters that we have on this set, as well as continue to wipe down each individual column and the smooth pieces that really make up the sides of the awnings, which is a really fantastic touch and makes everything look awesome. I wish that the actual station was much bigger. You could have many more characters, and I just love how the station architecture is. It looks fantastic. And we'll continue doing our final finishing touches on the actual platform. We do our best to make sure all the smooth pieces get some form of cleanings. The studs, it can go by the wayside a little bit, but the smooth pieces, make sure that those are always cleaned.